Welcome back to the Outfit Repeaters podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shelby.
And we are your hosts. Today we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 15, Lizzie's Nightmare. Before we get there, Shelby, what are you reading? What are you watching?
So I finally, after a long time, finished A Court of Mist and Fury.
Yeah.
And I liked it. So, I finally get where Sarah was going in book 1. Where she was going, because I think I had mentioned on here that I was like, oh, she's gonna leave Tamlin for Rhys, but now I understand more about it. I just have to trust Mother, and
I said to you at that time, I said, Sarah always has a reason. Just remember,
I have to trust the process.
Yeah.
Yes, I have to trust the process, and I like how it ended. I already have the next book, so I am gonna finish a couple standalone books that I want to read before I get into A Court of Wings and Ruin. Because I'm reading the sequel to How to Hang a Witch, which is about the main character having a historical connection to the Titanic, which is what the author did in real life. So that's really cool. And then I've finished an audiobook that I thought was really cute. It was nothing groundbreaking, but it was called My Magnolia Summer. It was really cute. It's going to be a series. The author was Victoria Benton Frank, I believe. Okay. And I was looking into her, and her mother, the book takes place in the Low Country in South Carolina, and her mother used to write, like, for 20-something years about romance novels in the Low Country, and then her mother died. And so she's carrying on the tradition.
Sorry, not fun that her mother died. Fun that she's carrying on the tradition. I just felt the need to clarify that because I said fun at, like, the exact wrong time.
But it was a cute little book. It was a good summer read. It wasn't, like I said, nothing like wild, but it was a cute little book. And then for watching, I have watched Heart of Dixie before from the CW from probably 10 years ago. And I watched it before. Right? Yeah. So, but I'm rewatching that. It's on Amazon Prime. So I've been watching that. What about you?
So I finished The 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hilderbrand. Loved it. And you guys have been with me on my Throne of Glass journey, and that series took me from November until 2 weeks ago to finish. So it took me a really long time. The feeling where I was finishing books relatively quickly within a week or so, or 2 weeks or something like that. That just had not happened for me in a really long time. And so to be able to start and finish this book within a week it just felt really nice. I feel that way too. I did pick up another Ellen from the library, but I decided I didn't want to read that right this second. So I did start Emily Henry's new book yesterday, Great Big Beautiful Life. I'm only 20 pages into it. I haven't started any audiobooks yet, but I did get some with my credits yesterday. Got Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. And then Don't Let Him In by Lisa Jewell. Lisa Jewell never misses for me. And then Lisa Jewell wrote None of This Is True, which was amazing on audio.
So good.
And a lot of people say that Listen for the Lie is kind of similar. It's got a podcast vibe to it. So I'm excited for that. And then I did pre-order Nia Sue's book, Bottom of the Pyramid, which doesn't come out until November, but it's kind of fun to do a book pre-order like that because between now and November, I will forget. And then in November, it'll just pop up and it'll be like, oh, how fun. So
I hope she's the one reading it,
I'm sure she is.
I love it when celebrities read their own memoir.
Yes. And then watching, last night we started Gone Girls, about the Long Island serial killer, which is a 3-part docuseries on Netflix. We recently finished season 15 of Survivor, which was China. And I have also been watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So,
yes.
Well-rounded programming.
Yeah, you have to have a little bit of everything.
You do.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to get into the episode if you are. All right, you're reading, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
All right. So we've got Lizzie McGuire, Season 1, Episode 15, Lizzie's Nightmare, original air date June 22nd, 2001. So we are opening at the McGuire house, and you get an opening scene of Matt looking quite menacingly at a jar of honey. And then Lizzie is on the classic 3-way call with Gordo and Miranda. And Gordo says, there's something I'm supposed to tell you. I just can't remember what. And Miranda says, oh, I know. Was it about Lizzie's outfit? Because, it's not her fault that red's not her color. And Lizzie says, maybe because it clashed with the green spinach that was in my teeth all afternoon. Yeah, so Lizzie apparently had a piece of spinach in her teeth all day that her friends knew about and didn't tell her about.
That's not right. Not right.
Federal prison.
That is not okay. Where were her friends?
Exactly. And that's exactly what Lizzie says. The point is, you're my best friends. You should have told me. And then Matt is at the door to her room, and something's going on. And she says, what dog breath?
He just comes in and, he looks at her and giggles. Exactly. And you're just like, oh, no. Oh, no. Where is this going?
Yeah, so she says, what dog breath? And Matt says nothing. And then Lizzie calls him a freak. And then Gordo finally remembers what he was supposed to tell Lizzie, and that it was that Ethan said if you wanted to sit with him at lunch today, he'd be cool with it.
Casual.
And so, of course, the girls start freaking out. Ethan Kraft, I can sit with him at lunch today, and you're just now telling me this? I have no time to prepare. And Gordo says it's not that important.
He just doesn't get it.
He doesn't. And Miranda says, not important, Gordo. If Lizzie has lunch with Ethan, the school will notice. Gordo argues that they won't, and Miranda argues that it will, and that will translate to Lizzie being popular, which of course means everybody being popular. Mm-hmm. And right here is where Lizzie starts to notice that Matt has absolutely slathered her phone in honey. And this begs the question, how did she not realize it before she picks the phone up? How did you would have seen it. You would have seen it, you would have felt it.
Yeah.
How
is she just now realizing this?
Would love to know. Would love to know.
And also, how did, maybe, Matt got into her room while they were eating breakfast, or what, or... I'm like...
Still, there's no way, when you see this happen, you see the whole side of her head, all of her hair is just covered in honey, and there is just simply no way that she wouldn't have noticed it before putting the phone to her head.
Mm-mm.
But at any rate, Lizzie says that she's got to go because she's got to deal with something that's about 4 feet tall, has brown hair, and is far worse than you not telling me that I had spinach stuck in my teeth all afternoon. I'd hang up, but I can't because the phone is stuck to her head.
Oh, no.
Animated Lizzie says, Matt must have been switched at birth. My real brother couldn't be some prank-pulling, lizard-killing, make-believe friend-having weirdo. I want a blood test. And so then we get a scene of Lizzie and Joe in the kitchen, and Joe is trying to get the honey out. And, of course, Lizzie's saying that she's got an important lunch today and that her hair is ruined. And
I would be, freaking out, honestly.
Lizzie
I would be you got to cut all my hair off.
Yeah. And so Joe says that she thinks she's got almost all of the honey out and that she doesn't think anyone's going to notice. And then, of course, she tags in Sam because that's helpful at this moment in time. And so Joe says, look at Lizzie, doesn't she look especially nice today? And Sam says, yeah, she does, especially her earrings. And Animated Lizzie says, poor dad, he tries so hard, but most of the time he's clueless. And of course Joe is in the back just gesturing that wasn't the right thing to say. And Sam says, her outfit. And then finally he gets it, says, of course your hair. And Joe says, see?
Third time's a charm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Lizzie says see. And Sam says, no, it looks nice. Beautiful, in fact. So Animated Lizzie says, poor mom, she's got dad so well trained that she actually believed that. And here comes Matt down the stairs at full volume on the phone and says, I'm telling you, Lanny, the honey thing worked great. I did exactly what you said, but I used my sister instead of a hamster. And he comes around the corner into the kitchen to see that the whole family is right there. And says, Lanny, I gotta go. And I said, so Matt rolls into the kitchen having this conversation at full volume and doesn't think that the family would be sitting right there at breakfast time right before school.
Yes, and also, wouldn't he be the prime suspect and now he's just, telling on himself?
Correct.
So...
Also, poor hamster. What the heck?
I said the same thing. What? Lanny?
Lanny.
Like,
this is the same kid that did shove a dead turtle in his pocket last episode, so...
Yes, that's true. That's true. And the one that never talks.
Yeah, his behavior's consistent, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lizzie says to Matt, if you know what's good for you, you won't talk to me, you won't look at me, and you will pretend that you don't know me. And Matt says, forever? Works for me. And of course the parents are like, be nice to each other. And here Joe is getting ready to dish out punishment, and Matt is already just on 11 today and says, so what is it this time? No TV, no friends over after school, no more chicken noodle casserole?
If I got smart like that during a punishment, I would have been annihilated.
It would have been over. Sarah McLachlan would have been playing in the arms of the angel.
Eviscerated.
Oh my gosh. So Lizzie suggests to send Matt away forever, and Joe says that's not a bad idea. And Matt says that that's not very nice. And Joe says, well, you haven't been very nice either, young man, putting honey on your sister's phone. Just go to school and I'll deal with your punishment later. And Matt said, oh, I'll rush right home. And
again, with the smart mouth.
I said, the sarcasm here is biting.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you're already in trouble. Don't make it worse.
Yeah. So both kids, Matt rushes out the door to the bus because Lizzie's mom is taking her to school. And Matt sees the bus driving away after he leaves the house and starts to run after it, chasing it down. Hey, wait for me. Hello. And he gets on the bus, starts to walk maybe 3 seats back, and sees children way larger than him, way older than him, and says, this isn't my bus. Oh, well. And just takes a seat.
Just whatever. Just whatever. Oh my gosh. And also, I don't know if this is everywhere, but I've always been told once buses start, they are not allowed to stop until they reach their destination or cross a train track.
Okay.
So, even if they see a kid running behind them, I've seen kids get left behind because that bus driver was like, nope, sorry.
Yep. You would know
better
better than
than I would. Gotta stay by my route.
So now we're at school, and Gordo assures Lizzie that her hair looks fine. And I said, actually, her hair is looking fab. Like, she's got full curls going on.
The little wavy curls,
Yes.
I thought was a lot cuter than just
straight.
like her straight. Yeah.
Agree.
Yes.
And Miranda says, oh, and for the record, your teeth are clear, too.
Thanks, Miranda.
And Lizzie says that she's not going to let Matt ruin what is otherwise the greatest day of her entire life. And Gordo says, what's so great about it? And Lizzie says, tell him, Miranda. And Miranda says 2 words, Gordo. And he says, if you say Ethan Kraft, I swear I'm going to hurl. And Miranda says, fine. In that case, I'll say 1 word, lunch. We cut back to the bus that Matt has mistakenly gotten on. And who arrives on the bus but Ethan Kraft? And sees Matt in his seat. And so Ethan says, you're in my seat, little man. Move it. And Matt just chooses violence today and says, I don't think so. Ethan says, you don't think so? And Matt says, no, unless I missed the sign that says reserved for Frankendork. And Ethan says, what? And Matt says, Frankendork. Frankendork. I'd show you, but I don't have a mirror. And honestly, the only thing I had to say here was, damn, Matt.
Oh my gosh. So when I was watching this part, I think this was still in the narrative that Ethan was supposed to be some, like, jock bully guy.
It had
because, to be. Like, season 2, Ethan would not have reacted this way.
Yeah.
So, like, let me punch you in the face.
Yeah. So Ethan says, who are you? And Matt says in a faux British accent, they call me Bond. Matt Bond. And Ethan says, all right, you leave me no choice. How do you want it? And he's like cracking his knuckles. And Matt says, shaken, not stirred. And here I said, that is actually a James Bond reference that I never would have clocked as a child. So, like, I very much appreciate this.
Yes. I was like, okay, I see where this is going now.
Yeah. And so rather than choosing violence, Ethan decides that Matt's funny. And they decide to sit together on the way to school.
Oh my gosh.
So now we're in the hallway again, and Miranda's complaining about writing on the chalkboard. And Lizzie, of course, has her head in the clouds.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, when I was reading that, I was like, do kids these days know what chalkboards are? Because all they know is dry erase boards and smart boards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, Lizzie is out of it, obviously daydreaming about lunch, and they run into Gordo in the hallway, and Gordo asks if they've heard about the new kid. Miranda says, "You mean the one with the recording contract?" "Yes, I haven't stopped hearing about him. His parents are spies. He goes to Disney World at least twice a year, and he's already skipped 3 grades." And here Gordo says, "Yeah, well, how about the fact that he's already made a movie? A movie! Not just any movie, but a feature film with Steven Spielberg. And he's younger than I am. He's younger than me." And I just said, why do either of them believe a single word of any of this?
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was like, y'all have got to work on your critical thinking skills because none of this is any kind of relevant. But I do remember there would be like kids at school in middle school who would be like, "My cousin's Taylor Swift," or something like that, or like try to sound like it was some cool fun fact, but and we all believed it, and like looking back now, it's like that was really dumb. I can't believe we all believed that.
But it's also way more believable when it's one thing, not like all of the things. It's not the recording contract and Disney and skipping 3 grades and Steven Spielberg.
And spies as parents.
And spies. And we get more later. It just keeps coming. The hits.
It does. It does. He gets really creative, which I respect it.
He does. So Lizzie says, "Who is this kid anyway?" And Miranda says that she hasn't met him yet, but he's a friend of Ethan Kraft's. And of course, Lizzie says, "Ethan?" And Miranda says, "He transferred here from some small private school on an uncharted island near Fiji."
Again. Really, people?
And she says, "His name is Matt something." And Lizzie's like, "Matt, do not say that name around me." And here Gordo is going on and on about, "Can't believe it, younger than me and has already worked with Spielberg." And so Matt is coming out of a classroom within like a crowd of kids. And of course the door opens in a way that like, doesn't Lizzie fall over?
Yeah, it hits her like in the face. One of those classic.
So the door hits Lizzie, so she doesn't see who it is. She just hears the commotion that's happening. And Matt says, "So I said to him, Harry Potter should be seen and not just read. And that's why they're making the movie."
Isn't that crazy that this was before the Harry Potter series? Like,
literally, and like saying the movie, and then there ends up being 8 of them
making the movie, and I'm just like, oh my gosh! Like, and I, looked at the year that this is released, and then obviously the first Harry Potter film, and I was like, this was before any of the movies.
Yeah.
So, wow.
So Gordo checks on Lizzie, who's still on the ground, and asks if she's okay. And she says, "I'm fine. Was that Ethan? Did he say anything about lunch?"
Oh my gosh, Lizzie.
And so now we're back at the McGuire house, and Matt has been discovered missing. He did not show up to school today. And Joe thinks it's her fault, and Sam says, "Hold on a second, honey. I'm making a killing on this online auction selling your old Leif Garrett records." And we get a flashback of Joe holding a record and like kissing it, and she's got like the Farrah Fawcett flip out hair going on.
It wasn't Joe, the actress, right? It was like a young girl, but she had the same glasses on.
She did.
Joe's iconic little glasses, like young Joe still had them on,
Amazing.
which I thought was cute.
Yes. And so Joe says, "Sam, I need you to listen to me. It's Matt. He's missing. School just called and he never showed up. The last thing that I said to him before he went to school was that I thought we should send him away forever. And I think he thinks I hate him and he ran away from home. I mean, from us. I mean, from me." And so Sam says to slow down and that it's happened before because there was one time that he hid under his bed so he didn't have to do square dancing during PE. And you get a shot of Matt actually hiding under the bed, and he's got like stuffed animals positioned like all against the end of the bed, and he is wearing some sort of like hat / helmet that looks like a dinosaur egg, and just has his head positioned like amongst the stuffed animals, so it just looks like the dinosaur egg is sitting there.
Oh my gosh. Square dancing.
And so Joe says that she's checked under the bed, and the only thing that was under there was weak old chicken noodle casserole. I thought he liked that too. And so Sam, of course, is trying to calm her down. He's got to be around here somewhere. You remember that time that he snuck out so he could be first in line at the toy store to meet Tarzan? And Joe says, "Yeah, he didn't sneak out." Sam says, "Huh?" And Joe says, "I went with him." And we get a photo montage of Joe and Matt posing with Tarzan. And Tarzan is like, in his like loincloth type thing. And Joe is very into it. And all I had to say here was the way that I cackled at this.
I did too.
And Sam says, "I knew you liked that guy." And so they get back to business. Matt's missing and we have to find him. And they start to kind of like tear the house apart. Closets, under the house, outside, whatever.
He said, I'll look under the house.
And so now we're back in the cafeteria and it is time for lunch. And Lizzie says, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for my entire life. Lunch with Ethan Kraft. And Miranda says she wants every detail. And Lizzie says she'll tell her everything. And Gordo says, okay, I wasn't going to say anything, but I think you need to hear this. The fact that you care so much about sitting with Ethan is kind of pathetic. So he's popular and maybe he's good looking. So what? Who you are is way more important than who you sit with at lunch. And I said, Gordo is such a hater. Such a hater.
Gordo, you just don't get it, okay? Like,
he doesn't,
stop.
and I don't like him using the word pathetic. That's
No.
rude. That was so rude.
No. Ugh. And Lizzie's response is perfect.
She says, you done? Good. Here I go. And so she makes her way over to the table, and Ethan spots her and says, hey, Lizzie, over here. And this is Shelby's inserted dialogue. She says, kids hooting and hollering. And
I felt so cringe in that moment that, like, she's walking over, all these kids are hooting and hollering because they think, like, ooh, Lizzie's going to sit with Ethan, but she is sadly mistaken. And she's, like, eating it up, too. She's like, yeah, everybody's looking at me, go sit with Ethan. And she's like,
that's not at all what's happening.
and then, no, not what happens at all.
The kids are hooting and hollering because Matt is on the table dancing, and he's actually bent over, like, spanking his butt from side to side, and then jumps off the table and says, and that's how Brittany learned to dance. And I have to point out here that he's dancing to the same song that Lizzie did her rhythmic gymnastics routine to.
I was going to see if you noticed that, too.
1,000,000%.
Oh my gosh.
The way that I have
clock
tried
that.
to find this song on Spotify and, like, on YouTube, like, it doesn't exist outside of the show.
Eyes on you.
Da-da-da. I love it. I'm obsessed with it.
But another, like, crazy lie from Matt.
Yeah.
Saying he taught Britney Spears how to dance. Yeah. And this was when Britney was in, like, her prime. Like, is Oops, I Did It Again, Britney.
It is. And so, of course, Lizzie and Matt see each other and just scream their heads off for a full 60 seconds.
Why is Matt surprised to see Lizzie? He has to know that this is her school.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming there's only one middle school wherever they live. And why is he shocked?
Even if there's not, he's old enough to know where his sister goes to school. He was just at the school play last week.
Exactly. This did not make any sense. I can see why Lizzie's screaming. I don't know why Matt's screaming, because he knew this was going to happen at some point during the day.
Yeah. And so they're yelling at each other, and then Lizzie grabs Matt, I guess, by, like, the collar of the shirt and is trying to drag him out of the lunchroom. And Matt says, hey, don't worry, I'll tell you how I got knighted by the queen when I get back. And so Lizzie asks what he's doing there, and Matt says, see, it all started when, and Lizzie says, do Mom and Dad know that you're not in school? And Matt says, but I am. And Lizzie says, you're the new kid, aren't you? And Matt says, well, it kind of looks that way, but, and Lizzie says, does anyone know that you're my brother?
I'm sure some people do, Lizzie, yes.
Yeah. And here comes Kate.
Icon.
And says, well, at first I thought he did look kind of familiar, but then I thought Lizzie could never be related to someone that cool and charming. Oh, hi, Matt.
And Matt does the little, like, finger wave back.
And here I have to point out that Kate is in all purple. It is a furry purple tank top, purple skirt, hair half up with a fuzzy purple scrunchie. And it's chef's kiss. It's everything to me.
Yes, I love that outfit. We know our Kate girl loves a monochromatic outfit.
We do, yes. And so Lizzie says, did Kate just call you cool? Never mind. Here's the plan. We're going to call Mom and Dad to pick you up, and by tomorrow, everyone will have forgotten who you are. And Matt says that's not going to work for him because he likes it there. The playground's bigger, the food's better, and everyone's really nice, especially that Ethan guy. And I said, there's no playground in middle school.
No, there's not. There's not. As someone who worked in a middle school, there's not. So, and also, how have, like, the teachers and staff not noticed this random child walking around the school aimlessly?
he came out of a classroom at one point, so he clearly has sat in on a class. Like, there's no way that even if you had a class of 30 students that you wouldn't be like, that one looks 4 years younger than the rest of my students.
And then he's probably going to give some, like, bullcrap lie of, like, oh, I'm a new kid. But no, even, like, they would be on, you'd get that info ahead of time.
You would. You would.
So I just want to know what his logistics were for the day.
Same. So Matt says that all he ever hears Lizzie do is complain about school and how horrible it is. And he says, I like it here and I'm staying. And Lizzie says, no, you're not. And they kind of do the, no, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. Back and forth. And then you hear the kids in the lunchroom chanting Matt's name. And Matt says, Matt, the people have spoken.
Matt.
And of course, Gordo's hating self comes out and says, at the risk of sounding selfish, I, for one, am glad it's Matt. Steven Spielberg. What an imagination. And Miranda asks what she's going to do. And animated Lizzie says, what am I going to do? I'll do what any other red-blooded sibling does. I'll go get mom and dad.
Solid.
And so we're back at the McGuire house, and Sam and Joe are trying to talk to Lanny. And Sam asks if he said anything about not going to school today, and Joe points out that they were on the phone this morning. And yeah, all we're getting is like nods and like shakes of the head and like kind of like inquisitive eyebrows. And Sam says nothing about square dancing or missing a test. And he says, yeah, no, the kid's not talking. And Joe says, does he ever? And Sam says he's one of Matt's best friends. And Joe says, that's not saying much. And here we get a police officer walk into the back of the scene that he's just checked with headquarters. They will circulate pictures, canvass the area. Don't worry. Cases like this, it's best just to sit tight. We'll know something soon. And he sees Lanny staring at one of Sam's gnome lamps and says, you're right. Gnomes are weird. And I said, somehow the cop knows how to telepathically communicate with Lanny. Why can't we have the cop asking the questions?
Good question.
That would be a better use of time.
That would.
So we're back at school, and here Lizzie and Miranda are arguing about using the phone in the principal's office. And Miranda says, they never let us make phone calls. And Lizzie says, are we or are we not allowed to use the phone in case of emergencies? And Miranda says, allowed. And Lizzie says, being my best friend, knowing how I feel about him, do you or do you not think that Matt being here is an emergency? And Miranda says, well, see, that's where you and I differ. Lizzie says, Miranda, it's Matt. The best thing about going to school every day is the fact that he's not going to be here. And Miranda says that she can use that to their advantage because Matt is a friend of Ethan's, which makes Matt popular. They want to be popular. Matt could help. And Lizzie says, help us. He's already ruined my lunch with Ethan Kraft. Besides, I don't even care anymore. I just want him gone. And Miranda says, this all made sense to me before we started talking. And Lizzie said, while you're trying to make sense of this, I'll be in the office using the school phone. Later.
If this had happened in 2025, like, right the second she called Matt, she would have just taken her phone out and called, like...
Yeah. Yeah.
There's none of the... There wouldn't be this whole debate of, like, can I use the school phone? Like,
yeah.
And also... Like, we'll get to this later with the principal, but, like, why is he getting on to her about using the school phone if it's an emergency?
I don't know. Like, if I needed to call home for anything, like, in the years prior to me having a cell phone, like, I'm not going to say it didn't need to be an emergency, but, like, forgetting your lunch at home is not necessarily an emergency, but, like, they would let you call and be like, hey, I forgot my lunch, can you swing it by? Like, it was not any kind of big deal to need to use the phone just to call home. I mean, and who else would she be calling? Everyone she knows in school. So here we get Matt popping out of a locker, and he's talking to, like, the geeks and said, see, as long as you can hold your breath, being stuffed inside a locker isn't really that bad. Here, you try. And so the kid steps into the locker and gets shut in there and is like, hello, anybody? And here we get Lizzie in the office picking up the phone, about to make the call, and around the corner comes Principal Tweety, a.k.a. Mr. Mosby.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Mosby!
From Sweet Life.
Last week we had Eddie Thomas.
Yes.
This week we have Mr. Mosby.
Iconic. And Principal Tweety is talking to Matt and says, the way you've explained it, I see no reason why scooters shouldn't be part of the PE curriculum. I'm going to bring it up with the board. And he catches Lizzie making the call and says, you know the rules, Miss McGuire, no student phone calls. And Lizzie says it's an emergency. Her little brother's at school. And Principal Tweety says, yes, he is, and we're very lucky to have him. And Lizzie says, but he doesn't belong here. And Principal Tweety says, you're right, he belongs in the gifted program. What? And so Lizzie says, you don't understand. And Principal Tweety says, I do. Just a tip, Lizzie. Jealousy isn't pretty on a girl. Let's try and work through it. And I said, what is this patriarchal nonsense? What is this?
None of this makes any sense from Principal Tweety.
The way this sent me into a crash out.
I know. I had to, like, stop and be like, wait, what? It was like a record scratch. Like, wait, what?
Exactly.
Like, what is he talking about?
Yeah. And so Lizzie's like, can you just call my parents? I'm sure they're really worried about him. And Matt says, you don't have to do that. And Principal Tweety says it's actually a good idea. And he gets the machine and leaves the following message. Hello, yes, this is Principal Tweety from Lizzie's school. Just wanted to call and say what a joy it is having Matt here with us today. And Animated Lizzie says, someone wake me up, please. Anybody wake me up from this horrible nightmare. This is really happening. And she is on a bed that is like shaking violently. And her head does a 360 like The Exorcist.
Man, she just can't catch a break.
So now Lizzie is in class and she's in a class with Ethan. And she walks up to him and says, I just thought I should tell you Matt is not who you think he is. I just thought you should know that. And Ethan says, weird, that little guy said you'd do something like this. And Lizzie says, he did? Something wrong? And Ethan says, nah, I was just wondering, does your brain hurt like all the time? And Lizzie says, my brain? And Ethan says, I never met anybody with a permanent brain freeze. Mine just lasts like a minute. And here Lizzie says, what are you talking about? What else did Matt say about me?
And the whole time Ethan is just like intensely staring at her. Not in like a romantic way, like in a very like I think you have a second head sort of way. Like, yeah, like you're standing in front of like an exhibit at the zoo and it's an animal that can camouflage itself and you're like squinting to try and see where it is. Exactly. That's what we're getting here. Exactly.
And Ethan says that Matt said something about her eyes and says that one pops all the way out of her head when she gets mad. And Animated Lizzie says, that's it, Matt's going down. And so we're back at the McGuire house, and Jo says she can't just stand around. Oh, yeah. And Jo says that she can't stand here waiting. She's going nuts. And Sam asks the police officer if there's something that he can do. And the officer says it's just best to stay home and wait for the phone to ring. Other than that, I'd love more coffee. And he's eating donuts. Classic.
Of course.
And Jo says, I'm not making you any more coffee until you tell me where my baby is. And this is when Sam realizes that he turned the phone off when he was online. And this is yet another, if you don't understand this, you're not old enough to listen to this podcast, dial-up. So you couldn't be on the phone and the internet at the same time. So they realize that the phone's been off and start checking the messages, and they keep skipping ones that aren't relevant. And we get the one from Principal Tweety. And as soon as Principal Tweety says, this is Principal Tweety from Lizzie's school, Jo skips it because she assumes it's something to do with Lizzie. And then she starts
still, like, at that point, even if it was the principal calling, like, shouldn't you be concerned?
Yes.
Like, yeah, maybe Lizzie's not missing, but what if she's, like, sick? What if something happened? Like,
what if she's in trouble?
Yeah, what if she's in trouble? Like, it's the principal calling. Like, that usually is not a good sign.
No. And then Jo just starts wailing that she wants her Maddie.
Oh, God.
And then here the officer says, about that coffee. Again. So we're back at school again, and Matt says, I'll be sharing more recipes on Oprah next month. And Miranda says, there you are. And Gordo asks, are you okay? Because Lizzie is like looking in on this scene of Matt showboating to whoever will listen. And Lizzie says, never better, actually. And Miranda says, why the sudden turnaround? And Gordo says, yeah, I heard Principal Tweety busted you. And Lizzie says, it was worth it. And Gordo says, say what? And Lizzie says, well, Principal Tweety was showing Matt around the school. I snuck in and used his phone to call. And here Matt says, so Tissue, I hardly know you. And this group of kids just like cracks up. And here enters police officers. And they say, Matt McGuire, and Matt says, no Matt McGuire here. And then officer says, Bond, Matt Bond. And Matt says, I guess the jig is up. Go easy on me, would you, fellas? And Animated Lizzie is, like, cheering in victory. And the kids that he was talking to were also cheering that he's so cool, he's so cool. And Animated Lizzie says, what? I just can't win today. Now I've made him even more popular. Oh, I could kick myself in the head. And she makes a kick and kicks off her flip-flops, and they both come and bonk her in the head. She says, wow, I didn't know I could do that. And Miranda says, well, you know what they say, tomorrow is another day. And Gordo says, that may be true, but Matt's always going to be her brother. And Lizzie says, oh, thanks. Way to spread sunshine, Gordo. Like, Gordo's just been a hater this whole episode.
I'm shocked Gordo did not make another reference to the herd moving on, because I'm shocked he didn't say the herd will find something else to talk about besides Matt being here.
This would have been a prime opportunity to mention the herd mentality.
Missed opportunity here.
So, and then Gordo again says Spielberg, and I said, get over it, Gordo. And Miranda says, it's okay, I feel for you. And so we're back at home, we're on our three-way call of the evening, and Gordo asks, did Matt get in buku trouble? And Lizzie said, grounded for a month, no TV, and no phone. And the best part is, he's got to keep a solid 10 feet away from me at all times. And Miranda says, yeah, but meanwhile, everyone at school is still talking about him. And Gordo says,
the herd will move on.
Nothing says cool like getting arrested, especially at school. And Lizzie says, hold on, I've got another call, guys. And answers hello. And Lizzie answers, Ethan. And Ethan says, Lizzie, hi, it's Ethan. And she asks him to hold on for a second and buzzes back into the three-way. It says, oh my gosh, you guys, Ethan, it's Ethan Kraft. He's on the other line. And of course, Miranda is freaking out. And says that I so want to be you. And Gordo says, can someone please explain this guy's appeal to me?
You just don't get it, Gordo. You just don't get it.
He never will. And so she ends the three-way and gets back on the call with Ethan and says, so what's up? And he said, hey, listen, I was wondering, what are you doing for lunch on Saturday? And Lizzie says, nothing yet. And he says, so then you'll have time to pick up a pizza for me and Matt. I love that little guy. So Lizzie says, that'd be great, but I think that's when Matt's nap time is. Later. And then you see her fall backwards off the bed and go, ow! And Animated Lizzie says, Matt ruined the best phone call of my life. It's not over. I'll get him. And then we get outtakes, one of which is Lizzie saying, I'll get him, and she ends up catching herself in a mousetrap.
Oh, yes, I saw that one, too. Yes. The other ones are just, like, them stumbling over lines, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anytime we get an Animated Lizzie outtake, I like to point it out, because, like, they really had to go the extra mile to, like, animate an outtake.
They did. And Hillary had to record it, too, so. Oh, my gosh. Sometimes I wonder if they, like, take some of her sound bites from when she actually did mess up and put it to, like...
That would be interesting.
So, that can't be possible all the time, but sometimes I wondered if some of them were like that. And put it to an animation. All right, what were your thoughts on this episode?
So, like, I know last week when we talked about, like, when we said the title of the episode, I was like, I don't remember, like, just based on the title, I was like, I don't remember this. And then I was like, oh, I do remember this. You know, based on the description of the episode. I don't know, it just wasn't as, like, memorable as I thought it was.
I thought at first about the time they switch bodies, which I think I said that last week. Yeah. That's a good one, but yeah, there's a lot of plot holes in this episode.
I was a little underwhelmed. I think that's the best way to describe it. Is I was mildly underwhelmed.
Yes, but it was cutesy. I liked it. It was cute. We only had one outfit from Lizzie the entire because it's only one day. Yes. So she had on those like orange. It almost looked paisley pants. Yeah,
I said flowers, but it could have been paisley. I said they were like a burnt orange with like brown paisley.
Something,
and then she had this like tie-dye top, but it was in like a diamond pattern, I guess.
Yeah. It was like
the hair was good.
Quadrants of color.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we can agree our favorite outfit was Kate's.
Yes. We don't even have to discuss it. All purple. No, the hair was herring. I loved it.
I love her so much. What was your favorite line?
Oh.
Mine has to be some ridiculous lie that Matt told. Let me try to see.
Yeah.
I think mine is going to be, and that's how Brittany learned to dance.
Yeah. That's gotta be it. I'm gonna say it was the exchange between Matt and Ethan on the bus, where Matt calls Ethan Frankendork and says, "I'd show you, but I don't have a mirror."
Oh my gosh.
And then we also get shaken, not stirred, which is
iconic. Not stirred. Yes. Well, this one, I liked this episode. It was cute. It was a good one. Oh, I just watched the one for next week. What was it? Oh my gosh, I already forgot it. Because I watched it one more time before we recorded. Let me look at my
It is Obsession.
Oh, yes. This is, where
Oh,
Lizzie...
when she becomes obsessed with doing good deeds.
Yes, she becomes obsessed with recycling. She becomes a vegetarian.
Yes, and Matt's the hall monitor.
Yes, and Gordo's in the science
fair.
fair.
The plot is probably going to be funnier and more iconic than the primary plot.
This is when Gordo gets in the Elvis outfit to get in the slow bike race.
Yes! Okay, okay. Yes, amazing. Here for it.
So, any closing thoughts?
Not on this one.
It was cute. It was good. I mean, I remembered it once I watched it. So, but yeah, I think my favorite crazy Matt line was, "That's how Brittany learned to dance."
And it had to be because he was dancing to the same song that Lizzie did her rhythmic routine to.
Of course.
If anybody out there on the internet can find the full version of that song, let me know, please.
Please.
The way I would put that on my workout playlist, and I'd be on the elliptical, all eyes on you.
I would add that to my Legally Blonde playlist that I have, where I listen to the Watch Me Shine.
Don't get me started. Nothing gets me more hype than that song does.
That is such a good song.
Such a good song.
If you're in a slump, go listen to Watch Me Shine from Legally Blonde. It'll get you up.
You'll feel like you can kick down a door.
Yes. You're like, yes, I am that girl.
Yes. Well, I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. If you like our podcast, we would love it if you would subscribe and rate our show 5 stars on whatever platform you listen on. And if you love this episode, please share it with a friend. We are on all socials, The Outfit Repeaters Pod. And until next week, we're outie. Bye.